Property Tribes on location at a buy-to-let seminar in Huntingdon, hosted by Maxine Lester Lettings. And I'm delighted to be joined by Maxine herself, and also a lady that needs no introduction, the lovely Kate Faulkner. And Maxine, we've got a real landlord buzz in the background, and I've had such a great evening, such good quality information shared, very impressed. Tell us a little bit about the history of the event and how you've ended up with over 100 landlords here tonight.
Yeah, well, we started about 8 years ago, and really it was based on what we wanted to do was just give information. There was so much going on within the market, and nobody did anything. So we thought, let's get some information out there. Let's talk about, look, if you're going to do up the property, this is the way to do it up. If you're going to rent out property, this is what you want to look for. So we started off with the real basics. And it's just grown. I worked with a great team. Kate comes up with some absolutely blinded figures. So it's like, oh my God. And thankfully they match with what I've got as well. So apart from that, it's great. But it's information. That's what we're doing. And I think it actually gets, I suppose, a bit notoriety is the wrong word, but interest out there where people are going, oh, I remember that, or they'll talk to someone. It's like, oh, when's your next one? So that's how it's grown.
Well, congratulations. It's so good to see so many landlords here tonight, isn't it, Kate? And the importance of local knowledge cannot be underestimated.
No, I mean, part of my presentation tonight was that, yes, we're looking at all the lovely average figures, and then I say, well, actually, they're useless. And we start talking about individual property prices, because that's what really counts. So when you got all the news saying, oh, buy-to-let's dead, or invest in buy-to-let because it's given this type of return, actually, that's not good enough. It really isn't. And I think, what Maxine's done here is what I've always said agents should be doing, is just start talking to your landlords outside of letting, and then they'll come. We've had this conversation, and to see this room full from these guys tonight was just absolutely fantastic.
And they stayed.
They did.
Yes, and they're still here. We can see them in the background there.
Oh, that's right, that was wine. we understand landlords.
Bribery works every time.
Now, landlords typically have worked in isolation. So how important, Maxine, do you think it is that they do come out and spend a day looking, at an overview of their business, not just working in their business?
Oh, it's fundamental. I mean, if you're running any business, you need to, they always say you need to work out of the business rather than just be in the grass looking at it. You're not going to find out anything. You're not going to grow. You're not going to get ideas unless you actually expose yourself to other people's ideas. So, there are these groups here, but, you've got the National Landlords Association, things like that. These are the people that really know what's going on. And as a landlord, you need to be part of that, because if you try and do it in isolation, you're just going to lose.
At the end of the day, you're going to invest in something, just plan to get into it, plan to hold it, and plan to get out of it. Unfortunately, in the past, most buy-to-let people, even those that have made a lot of money, got into it by accident, held on to it, some quite well, some not so well, because there's still a lot of properties out there. 30% plus of private rented properties have a Category 1 hazard. 40% in Birmingham, in the West Midlands, would you believe? So there's a lot of landlords out there who are not doing this right, and they're going to get caught. And there are 30 grand plus fines, jail term, all sorts of things available. So it is just so essential to make sure that you plan to get in, plan to hold, and plan to get out. And unfortunately, a lot of landlords still haven't got that message.
No, we can't reiterate that enough. And I think that leads me nicely to say that I'm a big fan of having a fully managed service from a reputable, regulated agent, particularly if you're new starting out. Because, you said tonight, actually, there are now 182 government statutes and regulations that landlords have to adhere to. And I think, working with an agent, it de-risks, particularly for newcomers. But I loved what you said about how you're a social worker, an ambassador, or you wear a lot of different hats as a letting agent. And I just wanted to say that as a landlord myself, I really appreciate agents like you, Maxine. You are very very knowledgeable, and I really took a lot from your presentation. I mean that sincerely.
But it's true. I mean, she's joking about it, but Maxine sometimes doesn't quite know how good she is, because she's here, she's done this for a long time, she's got an amazing team behind her who work incredibly hard. And I think landlords just look at the money they pay, not the work that these guys do on their behalf. A lot of it is hidden. And it's really important also that landlords understand. We've been talking about tax tonight. All the money you pay to Maxine is tax deductible. So actually, if you're an investor, you should be smart, because if it costs less per hour to pay Maxine net of tax than you can earn per hour, why are you not using a full management? And why are you risking not keeping up with the law, which over and above everything else is still probably the biggest threat to the future of landlords in this country, is not knowing what they're doing. And the excuse of, I didn't know, isn't good enough.
No, doesn't cut it in front of the judge, does it? So, when landlords are looking for a way to an agent, a reputable, regulated agent, Maxine, just remind us what they should be looking for.
I think it's, first of all, it's the person. Can you trust that person? Are they saying things which challenge you? Instead of being all nicely and agreeing with everything that's been said, are you being challenged by it? Are you being given ideas? Are you being shown that there are various ways to do things? A lot of people that I see in sort of agencies have mainly put, how much, what's my fee? What do you do? What's the value to what you do? That's really what should be put over.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest, I mean, we are a bit naughty and say, if anyone comes to us and says, well, how much is your fee? We just say, we're the wrong people for you, because you don't want to know about the value of what you're getting. So
I think that's a good point. And Kate, also, I think one of the other themes that came out of tonight was, and you said it in your presentation, was it used to be location, location, location. That's still important. But your mantra is now plan, plan, plan. And that was a good overarching theme of tonight's event, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so, because again, the amount of times, I started talking about the dangers of tax a long time ago. We did it in the first presentation that went through. And landlords should not be buying property, adding an extra property to their portfolio until they have fully understood the tax implications. And I'm afraid, the media, much as it does some great stuff, one thing it will not do is teach you how to be a landlord and give you all the tools you need. Neither will the internet. You have to work with professionals. And I laugh sometimes at the amount of times I see people posting online, oh, I bought this property for this, I'm selling it for that, what's my capital gains? It's like, really? Or they post a property of a picture of a wall with a crack in it. Can you give me a diagnosis? No. You've got to have the right team to advise you on this stuff, and you should know all about this before you plan your entry. And you can't hold an exit property without the right advice, and I'm afraid you do need to pay for it. Otherwise it'll go pear-shaped.
I totally agree, and good advice is worth every penny. It will save you money, actually, when you add it all up in the long run. Saves you from risk of fines and penalties. So we do advocate it, and even on Property Tribes, people come onto our site and ask a question, and I have to say to them, it's not appropriate to get advice on the forum. You need to go to a specialist advisor. So I guess just to close out here, Maxine, obviously buy-to-let, perhaps in the past we could have looked shorter term. Now I think we're all saying it's a much longer term investment.
I'm going to disagree with you slightly there. I think it's always been a long-term investment.
Yeah.
The reason being, the property market goes up and down, and you never really know whether you've actually got a good deal until 10 years on. Then you can look back and go, oh, that was a cracker, or that was a bit of a pig. But I think it is very much, it's long term. Yeah, there were years where you could buy a property 2 years' time, get rid of it. But that's not being a landlord. That was just churning property around. So from my point, it's always been long term. It's always been, okay, the end game is over there, but the end game is not tomorrow.
Fair enough. Kate?
Yeah, I think it is longer term. So we had this period, in some of the stats that I showed, between 2000 and 2005, there was extraordinary growth. So in 1 year, whether it was 2000, 2003 or 4, most properties across the whole of the UK grew by 30 to 40% in London and 20 to 30% outside of London. We have never seen that since 2005. And the luck of your property investment depends on whether you're in a good local economy or not. And people need to understand they might think they've been the best investment gurus in the world, they might have just got lucky. And that luck's gone now.
Yes.
So now you've got to do this. You've got a plan to get into it, but capital growth is not growing and not expected to grow at anything like the rate it was. It's less than half is the expectation. So it has to be longer term, certainly if capital growth is what you're after. If it's income, it's a little bit different, and that's a whole kind of other set of rules. But, you know, buy-to-let is not a cheap investment, and it's one that you're always going to have to put money into. So you're always going to have to plan, I think, for the long term if you're really going to make more money than investing in something else.
Yes, indeed. So when's the next event, Maxine? How often do you run these evenings?
Well, we've been doing them sort of yearly, they say sort of yearly, and I think it really is coming up to an annual one now. So that's it, next February.
That's great. Having a party.
We're on.
Well, it's been great coming out here to Huntingdon, and there are local landlord events all over the country, aren't they, Kate? The councils run landlord forums, there's networking events, and all of us here this evening, we urge you to make the effort to come out, spend an evening, network with other landlords, hear from the experts. It really is a very, very valuable use of your time. So thank you very much to Maxine and Kate, and we hope you've enjoyed this brief insight into what we've been talking about here in Huntingdon, and pop along here next year.